Welcome to AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today, the podcast where we delve into the groundbreaking world of artificial intelligence. I'm Maurie, and with me is my husband, Jim. With our combined expertise in technology and education, we're here to guide you through the AI revolution. Whether it's the latest news headlines or transformative AI applications in classrooms, healthcare, and beyond, we're here to make sense of it all. Together, let's uncover how AI is reshaping our world from everyday encounters to the future of work. So let's dive in and explore tomorrow's tech today. Hello, and welcome to AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today. I'm here with my husband, Jim, and we are going to spend some time talking about some of the big announcements that have happened this past week, and also talk about a conference that he attended in Austin, Texas, which was very, very interesting, and I think shed some light on quite a few things that he will talk about in just a minute. But first, let's start out with Amazon. So Amazon has announced that the Alexa is now AI enabled, even though, they're saying they've been working on AI with Alexa for quite some time, but now they're actually making the huge announcement that it is the new generation AI Alexa, and it's a super agent is what they're calling it.
Well, the problem they're having is everybody's been making fun of Alexa for a while. Alexa is a form of machine learning. It has been, and it's been out for a long time, and it's very impressive.
Yes.
But the problem is it's compared to what the large language models can do now, it seems kind of dumb.
As part of the article that we were reading, it actually talks about how he's had to, the head honcho at Amazon, Prasad, I think it's how you say his last name, he has been having to defend that Alexa is not dumb. So he's actually having to defend it. Okay, he's having to address that stuff. They've also, of course, addressing questions about privacy, because now
they got in trouble for that anyway.
And they've bought out the Roombas, the iRobot, even though they're in the process of buying out Roomba, or the company iRobot, and they're having to address privacy with that too. But what is going to happen now that Alexa is AI? And one of the things I thought was interesting was that they were talking about how it's now integrated into thousands and thousands of devices.
Ours doesn't seem any smarter.
I don't think so. Maybe we need to reboot it.
Maybe we have two or three of them.
So I
tried to ask it a question today that I would have asked, a chatbot kind of thing, and
yes.
It didn't do well. It
really?
It answered it just like it pulled up a little Alexa plug-in thing and told me a joke.
So maybe we are going to have to either buy a new device.
Well, if it's in thousands of devices, it kind of implies that it's.
It says that Alexa's LLM, large language model, is now integrated with thousands and thousands of devices and services.
I think I'm going to go with the reboot theory. We'll just reboot it.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure what to ask it, though, honestly. I use chatbots all the time, but I have never had one that was purely voice like Alexa is. Normally when I'm using a chatbot, I'm typing stuff. It's giving me answers. And the idea of having voice interactive is cool, but anyway, maybe you can ask it about the Peloponnesian War. It's kind of your thing.
I do.
Every time we do trainings, you do something.
Talking about the Peloponnesian War.
I don't even know what that war was. It was
the word just sounds great when you say it.
I guess so.
Anyway, so that was the big Amazon announcement this last week. And then we also had Microsoft come out and make the announcement about Copilot.
And why did they do that? Why'd they do it? Because Google beat them.
Yes.
Which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yes. So Microsoft Copilot is your everyday AI companion. They are saying they're entering a new era of AI. It's changing how we relate to things and all the benefits we can get from technology. One of the things that we had highlighted here is that we have been building AI-powered co-pilots into our most used and loved products, making coding more efficient with GitHub, transforming productivity at work with Microsoft 365.
Well, I can tell you, I use the GitHub one all the time. Lately, though, it's great. It's a chat interface. It's really, really handy. But lately, I keep getting filtered. I don't. It will refuse. It'll start printing out some code, and it'll go, "You've been filtered," and it won't show me any more code. I don't know what that means. I'm not doing anything weird. It's just code,
Hmm.
and it's
Or
my
maybe you have to
code.
buy. Maybe it's
No, we
like almost like a paywall.
no
They're saying,
we pay for that service. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
It's on the credit card.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I
We
need to
pay for
start
that
looking a little
service. No,
better.
I have the paid for version. It just started doing that. It's like it thinks I copied. This is my code. I didn't copy this code.
Okay, so what do you think about Bing and Edge?
Well, I've used Bing for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
built into Edge. Honestly, I've never been that impressed. I mean,
Okay.
it supposedly uses GPT-4 at the back end, but I've just never found it. I use it some because it's connected to the web, which is nice, and I thought that would be better, but I've just never really found it to be that useful. Now they're building it in Windows 11. They've talked about that for a long time. They're really, of course, going to focus on Office 365. Of course, the problem is that to get all those features, they're not going to be free. The
Mm-hmm.
last I heard, it was going to be $30 a month
Mm-hmm.
for
Per person?
per person.
Oh, what about educational in the educational
Well,
field?
they forget about
They
education all
always
the
do.
time. So I
Yes.
have no idea. Maybe it'll be part of our. It'll probably be a license like we have licensing now that we have to
Yes.
buy per person.
Yes.
They'll
For
probably have
emails and stuff.
we have an A5 now. It'll be an A6 license or something you have to get that,
Yes.
and it'll be expensive, I'm sure. I like the idea. The Copilot thing. It's a word they like a lot, and I do like the concept of it. I just don't know how well people are going to accept it to start with. The idea, like I use the one we'll talk about in a minute, the Google one. It
Mm-hmm.
just seems like right now it seems like a super search function.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel like they're trying to bank on what's called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, which is what Agnes does, the ones that we
That
built
we
at the
worked on.
school.
Yes.
And basically, it's supposed to ground the answers in real data that you provide. So the idea is that if it's in my Office 365 and I've got my OneDrive and I've got all my data stored there, when I have it generate something, it now has that data. And that sounds good, except you and I both know with working with Agnes, you
Putting
can't
data in
just
is
plop
not
it in
easy.
there and suddenly it's going to understand it. And they're using GPT-4 at the back end, which is what we were using. And we still had to do some data prepping. I think it's a good
Well,
start.
let's think of it this way. If I work for a company that the data that I'm putting in is nothing but text data,
Then it'll work.
it'll work fine. If I'm just generating documents and
Yes.
manuals and things like that
Yes.
don't have a lot of pictures, don't have a lot of tables, don't have anything
Yes.
other than just text data, it should work just fine. But when you have a elementary school teacher who has things with cute pictures and
Yeah, we found
different
that out.
fonts and
Yeah,
in a table, and
It's
and
the
you
tables.
start
The
it's
tables were tough.
the tables
They were
get
tough.
you every single
They were
time.
tough.
So if somebody's telling you that they can easily ingest all of your data, they don't know what they're talking about.
Well,
It's
they
not
certainly have an
easy.
experience. It's
They
not as
have an
easy. They always
experience.
show simple examples. I think this is a good start. I'm excited about them doing it. I'm going to load Windows 11 on my box at school so I can get that feature. But I want to see how well it works.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Education, which is our focus, what version of Windows do you think, if you're still a Windows school, what version of Windows do you think educational institutes are currently using?
Most of them are probably still using Windows 10.
Okay.
Some of them, I mean, Microsoft, they always do this. They're going to force you to upgrade to Windows 11. So we know that's coming.
So for those educational institutions, which we saw one on the news the other day, I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a technology director at a very large school outside of Austin
Mm-hmm.
that said they had blocked ChatGPT. They had blocked AI. They were making a
That's what they
big
said.
deal out of the fact that they had blocked AI.
They better not use Windows
Well,
11.
better not use Windows 11, because it says here in this article that it is going to be simple to use, a seamless experience. It's in Windows 11, Microsoft 365, the web browser that has Edge and Beam. It's either going to be in an app or you're going to be able to right click to get to it. And they're going to continue to add additional capabilities and connections and services and all that stuff. So if you are a tech director and you happen to be listening to this podcast, you're not going to be able to block it.
No.
No,
We've been
it's
talking about that for a
it's
while. You're not going
not.
to be able to.
You're going to have to educate on it, not block it. So,
That's correct.
Microsoft Copilot. It has been released. Now let's talk for a second about
Google,
Google.
Bard.
Bard's latest AI capability updates and
It's the
improvements.
exact same thing. It's the exact same thing as the Microsoft. It's except it's on all of the Google products. So
Okay.
there's not really any difference. I did try it though, and I was a little disappointed because it doesn't work on our. We can't turn it on our admin console.
All right.
So
Why?
because it only works on personal ones, it doesn't work on our admin console one, which was kind of disappointing. I think because
Isn't it something to do with the license?
it's something to do with the fact that they want to charge you for it if you're
Right.
an enterprise.
Right.
As a school district, we went in, we enabled it, and you get barred, which I didn't know you could even get that you had to enable it to get barred, but you can. So we got barred at the school district. But all those extra features,
Not going to be free.
well, I don't know what they're going to be, but they're not in. When we turned it on, it said it's not available for enterprise workspace customers, which is us at the school.
Hmm.
For me, like I said, it's on. It's exactly the same thing that Microsoft's doing with their Copilot. I like it because it's a natural language interface, but it's still they're using Palm 2 as their large.
Glorified search.
It felt like that. I mean, I think the stuff it's exciting for us because we train people for a living.
Yes.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's going to give you chat functionality with your spreadsheet. But from using Midjourney, you have chat functionality with Midjourney through Discord.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of tricks you've got to know in order to get it to do exactly what you
To
want
get the best out
to
of
get the
it.
best outcome. And they're going to have the same problem with these copilots. They're still using the same large language models on the back end. They're just giving you that chat function in their different products that they offer. So you've got a little chat bot over there. You get to go say, I'd like a spreadsheet that does something. But spreadsheets are different than docs, and docs are different than
Yes.
PowerPoint slides or in Google Slides. I think they're going to end up over time tuning the kind of instructions that it can follow. And that tuning is going to be dependent on the product you use. So I think people are going to find that I love the idea because I can't stand the kind of interfaces we have now with most technology. This has been, in my opinion, long, long overdue. They should have done it a long time ago.
Okay.
But it's going to take we're going to get to train people.
I like training people. So 3 huge announcements: Amazon, Microsoft, Google. Anything else that you can think of?
Those are the big ones for the week. I mean, I can't. Those kind of overshadowed everything else because everybody threw out their Copilot. So I think that it was kind of a big deal.
Okay, so let's talk for just a second about the Applied Intelligence Live that was in Austin last week. I was surprised because, first of all,
That I went
yes,
because I don't go to those conferences.
You don't tend to go to those conferences.
I don't.
And so I talked you into going to at least the first day of the conference.
You did?
And you got down on Wednesday and you apparently really enjoyed it because then you actually went back on Thursday, which completely surprised me.
Yes.
So I know that when you got down there was a few things that surprised you. And I also know that you really, really liked talking to people who knew things about artificial intelligence.
I did. I also liked the location. You and I have been to was it the Palmer in Austin. We've been there many times. We used to register for classes there long ago for Austin Community College. But the view, I sent you a picture of the view. It was phenomenal. And it was very Austin-like because you had pre-bought me a lunch ticket, which I really appreciated because I didn't want to go find some place to eat in Austin. And they had a little taco truck and they had a shawarma truck. I didn't know what shawarma was. So we had a long discussion about shawarma and the fact that apparently that was just kind of a thing he did in Avengers. He wasn't even in the script.
They wanted to go get shawarma.
He wasn't even in the script. Apparently he just wanted shawarma is what I heard.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a guy at lunch and he was eating shawarma and I was like, what? Apparently it's Turkish. Mm-hmm. It's from Turkey is where it originated. It's what I was told.
A little spicy.
And it's like Greek. My oldest said it reminded him of spicy Greek food.
Okay.
and it looked like that. It was kind of a thick, meaty looking thing. It looked good. So
Okay.
anyway,
Are
sorry.
you hungry? Because we're not talking about AI. We're
Yeah,
talking about food.
you asked me about the conference. Well,
Okay,
that
well,
was
let's
part of the
talk about what you
conference.
learned. Let's talk about some of the things that caught your attention. Some things that I know you texted me one time and said, this is scary. So I know there's some things that you enjoyed and some things that kind of concerned you. So let's look at your schedule out. Let me pull up your
Well,
schedule and let's talk about
the
this.
thing that I went to the very first one I went to was it was actually a company that does analytics for oil companies. That's the impression I got of what they do. And they're working with another company that does AI workflows, which was interesting. The lady that did some company called Data Robot, the one that did the actual presentation, was incredible presenter. I mean, she really knew her stuff. So I enjoyed the presentation. What was interesting to me about it was, first of all, the representation from the oil and gas industry. I mean,
I've never
Shell,
thought about oil and gas and AI.
there was a lot of them there. And I remember I went to two or three that had Shell and British Petroleum was there. And then
Exxon.
these companies, I didn't see Exxon, but these companies that support oil and gas
Mm-hmm,
companies.
mm-hmm.
And what I liked about it was they weren't, they did talk about environmental stuff, but they talked about it in the sense of using AI to do a better job of shipping, getting minimizing the routing,
Logistics.
the logistics. They talked about using AI to figure out, and they were using not just AI in the sense of machine learning, which they've been using for a long time, but they were giving their operators an AI interface. So their operators, like, one of the things that really caught my attention was well failures, the pump failures, and
Oh,
they're given this AI interface to it. Of course, they had all the back end stuff with the machine learning going on, but the operator could ask questions that they thought might be relevant if they saw an anomaly in an oil well, a pump that was on because when oil well pump things go out, they don't just lose money. They tend to lose money because it leaks or
right,
have oil spills.
right.
So
Environmental
they talked a
issues.
lot about how to prevent those. I mean, these are people that probably get a hard time for what they do every day because
Yes.
they're in oil and gas, and people don't like oil and gas industry. But
I know our daughter has said several times that when you look at it, they actually spend more money than any other
on environmental,
corporations on environmental
considering what
concerns.
uh, they should,
No, look,
considering they're
but
the
what
ones
they've
making the
done to it,
mess.
yeah.
But
But
I was
also,
just
let's think
impressed.
about
The people that were there, these weren't the executives in oil companies. These
right.
weren't the guys that are making millions of dollars no matter what happens. These were everyday engineers, scientists, data scientists that were just talking about how they're using it. And I enjoyed listening. That particular one, the guy from that one company, I enjoyed it because his journey into AI was identical to mine. Why he got into it, what he did, the different ways he learned, the mistakes he made, because that's what he was talking about. It was like I wrote the script. I could have been up there talking. It was
Oh, okay.
the only difference is we went all the way to build Agnes. He stopped there and hired another company because he's an oil company, so he can
Oh,
use
so he
money.
could hire
He
someone.
hired somebody to do the stuff you and I had to do on our own.
Okay. All
The
right.
next one, the scary one, I went to it because I wanted to say what it was. So see if you can read that title. It just sounded so cool that I
Okay.
wanted to be able to tell people I went to that because maybe sound really smart, right?
The future of high performance computing and AI, the nexus of quantum, neuromorphic, and biohybrid neural networks.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
That it
It
sounds
sounds like really
impressive.
smart, right?
Okay,
That's
quantum time, sensing, computing, communication, and networking requirements for building effective quantum computers. And
first of
that
all, I'm not.
so far above my head. I'm glad you went. I would have already been
It
at
was
the
a little
shawarma
above mine
truck.
too. It was. It's true. You would see. You're talking about lunch. You must be hungry too. Anyway, the thing that I found this frightening.
Why?
I don't really understand everything he talked about, but it really sounded like that. Basically, they're building brains on a chip. They're using like
We've
actual
talked about
brain
that.
cells and
Yeah.
things for the neural nets that they need for these AI and I'm not sure how quantum computing figured into that piece, but these had military applications. If you're building something like that because you're going to make someone who's paraplegic walk again or
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's lost their ability to speak, like I talk about my aunt as she
Mm-hmm.
was dying from cancer and she lost the ability to speak and how I desperately wanted to fix it. Those kind of things I understand. But when you start talking about doing this to do, brain to brain links between people in the military, and this was frightening.
Did he have a military background?
Now, this was a college professor.
Oh, okay.
I just don't think that.
Did
What
there
are
was
they?
a comment you said that was made that are basically other people are going to be doing
They
it. We
always
need to
say
do it
that we have to do
first.
it first because other people do it, even though we're the ones. We have to do it because we know our enemies are. That's what they always say. But anyway, what did you know? I talk a lot about government regulations. What do they say in Europe that they don't? There's certain industries,
The
high risk.
high
They
risk.
just this felt like one of those. I didn't sleep that well that night thinking about this stuff. I mean, this is it was creepy. It
Okay.
really
Well, that
they
was a
were
surpriser.
implanting things in people's brains. This is just not a good idea.
Anything else that you found interesting when you were
I found most of it interesting. I went to the Lenovo booth and they had a box sitting there, a server sitting there, and of course they've got an NVIDIA card in it, and they're trying to run things locally on the computer. It sounded like a hovercraft, like it was about to float out of there, but it was cool.
Okay, so a warning that to anyone that's listening about scams. You actually told me about this the other day. Now, we Agnes 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, so forth, we're building future Agneses.
Yes,
They have the ability to basically be standalone to where
everybody wants the at least the option of having the large language model run locally, but to do that requires NVIDIA type cards, which are very super powered
and
GPUs.
expensive.
Oh yeah, the
Okay.
H100, which was running in that Lenovo box,
But
was
you
five
saw
grand.
a Kickstarter
Yeah, they
or
were
a
talking about
GoFundMe
it
or
was a
something.
Kickstarter.
Okay. And someone was raising money and had raised money.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And they were selling a standalone
That's what they
large
claim.
language model
They said they were going to run a large language model in a $400 box.
for $400.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No way.
So there are scams out there for people who are saying that they
I
can
think
do
it's
it.
a scam. Now, maybe the people doing it are, I mean, there's some smart people out there. There was a company there working on a different type of chip that's not just a GPU, it's more of a dedicated neural net. I just don't think any of them are out.
So
So,
just a warning, be
yeah,
careful.
I don't know if it's a scam, but I would investigate it. If it sounds too good to be true, it
It's too
might
good to
be.
be
So you
true.
might want to think
Well,
about
it's
looking
like you
into
saw
it.
some scaffolding the other day that you were like, okay, and then we got on there. It was $95 for some scaffolding that
That
was
usually costs
some
$5
that
grand.
usually cost $5 grand. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
this
no,
is a scam.
I don't know if I'd say it's a scam. It might just be people being overly optimistic
As to how much they're going
as
to
to
be
what
able
they
to
can
sell
and
it
can't
for.
do. The
What
thing
else?
the thing that the thing that bothered me a little bit about this conference was the discussions about I went to one particular one and the thing about bias and the thing about large language models hallucinating. I heard this over. We know
Yeah,
that
old news.
well, not only that, but there are ways to mitigate it. This is an incredible tool, in my opinion. This is an incredible tool, and to keep focusing on
The
that
negative.
that particular negative, if you've got such a, then fix it. But the bias one, I sat there, and they were the particular thing I went to was supposed to talk about my passion, which is the digital divide, and how to make sure that everyone has access, democratizing access, kind of thing. But instead, they spent the first 10 minutes talking about nothing but how the algorithms are biased. Nobody was offering a solution. I mean, if you think they're biased, then what's
Figure
your
it out.
solution? Well,
Yeah.
there are solutions to it. People have proposed them, but sitting there just complaining about them when I really want to talk about the digital, how are we going to make sure that the poor kids have access to it? I was one of those poor kids. I would like access to this kind of technology when I was young. So I really think they should worry about that a little bit more and less about whether or not the thing is saying something biased.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
You got up
yes,
and left on that one,
I
right?
did. I lasted maybe 10 minutes. I had actually left a one that was pretty good. It was a one with the oil companies. The one that disappointed me was there was one particular person and one about finance. And he just went on and on and on about how dangerous it is. And what was interesting to me is he kept saying that we have to make sure because we're in finance and we're giving, investment advice, we have to make sure it doesn't make, mistakes. What are they using for information now? I mean,
True.
people act like Google, when you Google something, you get false information all the time, right?
True.
So you as a person,
You have
you're
to
supposed to be an
disseminate.
expert. You
Mm-hmm.
got to kind of figure out and weed out the junk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like everybody set this really high bar for this first round. This is the 1.0 round of large language models available to everybody, and they've decided they have to be perfect. They have to give perfect information. You and I both know how you ask the question determines how good the answer is, because we talk about that all the time. And we also know there are ways to get better answers. But the main thing we train people on is you're the
Verify.
you're the adult. I mean, Google built, that's one thing that's interesting about Google's release they just did. I didn't mention that with Bard, is you can say verify, but the funny thing is you verify by clicking on Google.
And it pulls up the articles.
And it pulls up the articles it thinks are most relevant. How many times have you pulled up articles that were just flat wrong?
Wrong.
So just because Google says it doesn't mean it's true, just because anything says it. So, be an educated adult and make a decision. This is a tool. If the tool's not giving you what you want, use a different tool or whatever. So I enjoyed the quantum computing stuff quite a bit. It didn't go to the level I was hoping it did in terms
wasn't as nerdy or
it wasn't
geeky
quite, that wasn't the words I was going to use. I was going to say technical.
In other words, you understood it. You were hoping to get there and find something you did not understand.
With the quantum computing stuff I was, and I'm not saying I'm some kind of expert on quantum computing, but it was really high level, all the things that it can change and how AI and quantum computing working together and is it going to end the world or not kind of stuff. And I don't, I've heard that enough.
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's time to move on.
But it's still all these people, even though I had some differences of opinion, these people are all passionate. Mm-hmm. They were smart. The lady from Shell that I mentioned earlier, she was really smart. She spent the last 10 years as an analyst for Shell, and she talked a lot about the oil company stuff. So there was a lot of people there that were very, very smart. The guardrails, a little too general for me, but there's that word bias that they throw in there. Mm-hmm. They do talk about data sets and how to do better with that. I agree with that.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so I've got to ask you this question. What about education?
Nada. Zero. Nothing. I didn't even see anyone else. I didn't see anyone else there from education like I was. What was sad the most, no one taught, no booth. I talked to one guy in a booth about education and nothing. I mean, they had a great product, but they have no path, no nothing.
And it was $98,000 for the product?
That was their beginning price.
This
was actually an AI workflow.
And you're like, oh, yeah, sure, not a problem. My school could pay for that. It's pocket change.
I asked him, I said, are you going to do a less expensive model for schools?
For education?
Education.
And he was huh? Schools?
What's that? Wasn't actually. He wasn't. His wife was a kindergarten teacher. Okay. And so he was very sympathetic, but and I understand they're a startup. They have to make money. If you don't make money, and everybody knows that education tends to be slow to adopt. They don't tend to have all the money that everybody else has. So I understand why it's just sad that I told the guy, I said, look, we're trying to tell the kids when they get out, they have to understand AI. We're going to train the kids. We want kids to get out 10 years from now ready to be adapted to what's going to be happening 10 years from now, but we train them on technology that's 10 years ago.
Right.
And so if we want them to do more to medical cures, be the future, then we've got to give them the futuristic tools, but the schools can't afford it. And one of the guys I talked to has a degree in physics, and he actually talked about teaching some on the side. He's getting close to retirement. He thought about teaching, so he's been talking to schools and stuff. But we need more people like that. I mean, we've been fortunate at our school. We've got a couple of some retired people.
District of Innovation. We're able to hire people that don't have a teaching certification. Yes. They just have to have a degree in the subject.
Right. But anyway, it was kind of sad. There was so little education there. I was like, well, aren't you guys worried about us? I felt like the lone voice crying into the hurricane,
What about the little guys?
What about us?
The little kids?
What about us? I had Llano ISD on my badge.
Yeah.
But people looked at me like, what is that?
Oh, Llano ISD. What does the ISD stand for?
One guy actually knew what that was, but he's a native from Austin. So he knew what ISD stood for.
All right. Well, we are out of time. I'm very glad that you enjoyed yourself.
And I went twice.
This conference, and you went back both days. As I said, I was really surprised.
I didn't try shawarma. I should have tried it. I ate the Mexican food twice. There was a Mexican food truck. It was really good. I should have tried shawarma.
Well, Thanks for listening. We're very happy that you do so. Make sure you tune in next time for AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's
I
Tech
think we're back to
Today.
education next time again.
Almost.
Yeah, we're going to talk about education again.
Yes, we are. And that brings us to the end of AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today. We're Maurie and Jim, your guides on this exciting journey through the world of artificial intelligence. We hope today's conversation has left you with fresh insights and a deeper understanding of how AI is shaping our future. If you enjoyed our discussion and want to stay up to date with the latest in AI, make sure to subscribe and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. Remember, the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we can actively shape and influence with knowledge and action. So let's continue exploring, innovating, and taking action. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to sharing more exciting AI developments with you next time on AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today.